Welcome, everyone. It's Andrew Beach, executive coach. I'm a teacher of self-education. I help professionals like you communicate value to find great opportunities faster, whether you're working or not. That's through a pragmatic process of personal branding, planning, and effective networking, effective communications. It's happy hour, career happy hour here today, folks. It looks like, let me see here, show participants' names. There we go. Captions, any questions, of course, put those in the comments, regardless of which platform you're joining on. That could be YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, in my group. That could be via LinkedIn, which is the primary place where I broadcast these sessions. And in the background, you might notice is Leavenworth, Washington, one of the places near and dear to my own heart. Has a history, I suppose, with me and our family. So that's a beautiful Bavarian village that I think all of us should visit this holiday season. So put any questions you have regarding career. That would be interviewing, networking, market planning. How do I handle the great resignation? What do I do as a leader to develop my people? I mean, there's lots of things, lots of topics that I can offer some insights and advice on. And so that's why I'm here. This is an opportunity really for you to get coaching on anything that you find is top of mind for you today, whatever that might be. So the other part of this is a community. So Career Happy Hour happens 3 p.m. Pacific time every Friday, at least that I'm available. Last week, I was doing college visits with my daughter. So we had a wonderful Friday interacting with Oregon State University. Just had a great time. So took a daughter, one of her friends, and it was a fun visit. So we had a day off, if you will, from the live streams. But that doesn't mean you don't have something to ask. I'm here certainly to support you and see how we can make things work for you, answer any questions that you have. But, because this is a community, what we're attempting to do is to facilitate, some way, lubricate, if you will, this process of networking, because it can be difficult for many of us. And what I want to do is make it easy. So if you put your LinkedIn profile in the description or whatever, in the comments box, in the chat, whatever you want to call it, then what you're signaling to people in this community is that you're open to being contacted. Now, there are situations that, yes, you're making yourself public, so I get it. If you don't want to put it in there, that's fine. And if you have questions and you don't want to ask those, there's an alternative for you that'll do a couple of things. First, if you want live coaching right now with me and you have a question or a comment or something that you want to share with the community, by all means, click the link in the description. It will bring you into what I call the green room, the back end of this system on Restream. You can put questions in there. You can say, hey, this is an anonymous question. And if you don't want people out there knowing that you're publicly, maybe looking around at different things, then certainly that's a way that you can share your question and get it answered in an anonymous way. So just come into the green room, type in your name as anonymous, and put your question in there. And then by all means, go ahead and pop out or pop in or what have you, and we'll get your question answered. So that's part of it. The live coaching is part of it, and then getting questions answered is certainly also a part of it. So we're going to cover some news today, maybe some topics that are top of mind for me, because I think last stream 2 weeks ago we were thinking about this, and it's still true that it's fourth quarter. It's fourth quarter. So there's a couple things as we start going into the holidays to consider. Yes, the holidays, somebody on social posted the other day, there's only, something like 10 more Fridays until Christmas. So it's like, wow. So it's coming. Christmas is coming. For those of you who celebrate, I'm sure there's others that don't, but it's just one of those things. As the holidays come, people taper down. Generally speaking, not always, but generally speaking, people are in a better mood. They're more accessible. They're more willing and generous with their time. But it certainly also depends on your particular domain of interest, right? If I'm in finance or accounting, it's year end, month end, quarter end close. So you know, maybe you don't like December. It's just a bad month for you. Maybe you're more looking forward to January. Okay, in that case, reach out to those folks in December for network conversations in January. So if you're joining here today, just let me know that you're here, that you have any questions, observations, that sort of thing. I'm okay sharing whatever content that you want here, as long as it's, kind of in bounds. And then we'll share some of the news and see what's top of mind for LinkedIn's editorial staff today. So we'll just go through the headlines and check it out. Let's see. There we go. Okay. Awesome. So put your questions in the comments and that sort of thing. So I was really, it's really been an interesting couple of weeks. I think many of you know that my advocacy for a lot of people I coach is to always keep your eyes open, always be willing to have conversations. So it's not uncommon that people reach out to me, talent acquisition folks or people in certain capacities, wanting to get my perspective on what I think about this role. Is it something I'd be interested in? So I'm sure many of you have that same thing happen to you. And so I find it interesting that in this era of COVID and people saying that there's tons of opportunities, I think what I'm seeing from the talent acquisition side of the business is that if they're not getting a diverse slate of candidates, they're reaching out to people directly. And having and modifying and updating your LinkedIn profile could potentially lead to you getting funneled into a job opportunity, primarily because you have the right keywords and language and such, much like we advised people in terms of resume to have those keywords on their resume. So part of this is a recognition that resume, at least in my philosophy or my opinion, my perspective, of course, is my own. It's not the perspective of any other entity that I might be associated with, is that I think we're going to see the resume diminish in value. It just is one of those things that's not really effective at presenting the entire solution that is you. It is effective in filtering, but it's not effective in displaying your strengths. And I think that as more people go forward and aren't offering up their resume or aren't applying to jobs because of the current status in the marketplace and the fact that many staffing departments are understaffed themselves, is the tides are going to have to change, where companies will have to be recruiting again, not just sourcing, right? So or reviewing and evaluating and filtering applicants. So just the concept of even calling it an applicant tracking system to me is moderately demeaning. It's one of those things that, part of it should be asset identification systems, right? That we're not looking to just track applicants. We're looking to identify assets that can impact our organizations. And so those companies that I believe that are forward thinking in that capacity, that are out actually doing a lot of talent branding, right? That they're attracting certain groups, and they have asset identification systems, whether that's through LinkedIn or other places. They're finding talent that aren't applying at things. And that's, I think, going to be these talent attraction strategies are going to be something that become more and more important moving forward, because these people are really taking the time now to document or at least understand what are their values. If I'm working remotely and I'm hanging out with the kids or the family, and I'm doing the homeschooling, it may be that maybe I've grown to like that. Maybe I like the flexibility to be home once in a while. And so the tide is shifting to how do we attract the right candidate for our company, knowing that it's not all, it's got to be a fit both ways. It can't just be a fit one way, right? The candidate is fitting your organization. and that's the only thing that matters. No, we as organizations need to fit the candidate, because the candidate is in the driver's seat a lot of times. And if we want them to stay, which certainly there's a lot of evidence, I believe, that indicates that, attrition or people leaving your organization is a lot more expensive than trying to, sourcing new talent is a lot more difficult than retaining the ones that you already have on staff. Good. Hi, Tracy. Thank you for that. Let's see. The IT industry is hiring. Yeah, I mean, at least what I'm hearing is that everybody's hiring. And that's one of the philosophies or assumptions that I encourage everybody that comes here for Career Happy Hour to assume, that all companies are hiring. They just may not be advertising, nor may they be knocking on your door. This is an opportunity for you to knock on their door. So it says here, the IT industry is hiring. It's a great time to invest in the education. Yeah. I think it's always a good time to invest in education if it's for self-development. Now, for me, I never encourage people to just get educated, because if it's not connected to something that is for your own personal growth, then I think you're doing perhaps yourself a disservice. But often people will seek things because they believe that's what the market demands. And because the market demands it, they seek it and they get this training. And turns out that the skill that they really needed to learn was maybe persuasive communication, in terms of, hey, how could I get the employer that I go to work for, who says this skill is important to them, to pay for this, right? So some sales skills, if you will, persuasive communication skills. Let's see, build those skills in developing a growth mindset. Never stop learning. Yes, good point. Thank you for sharing your profile in the chat as well, Tracy. I appreciate that. What else does Tracy have to say? The demand is far greater than the supply. Yes, but that doesn't make organizations any more effective in sourcing and onboarding. So I think that's at least what I'm seeing in the market, is that, it could be that your online application gets you an interview, but you're still in a position where you're taking what the market presents to you. And often that's a hit and miss, right? It's hit and miss based on your values. What do you want in terms of environment or culture? What do you prefer in terms of your work from home or work in the office or hybrid environments? What about compensation and benefits? It could be you have a great job, but the comp and benefits just aren't that awesome. So it's still an opportunity for you to do some networking and be proactive and see how you can fill a niche in a company where they maybe don't have an established title or compensation structure, even though, many in the hiring community might want to put you in a box. Sometimes we just don't fit in a box. And that works to your benefit as a candidate and to the benefit of the organization, because you may be offering a basket of assets that they don't currently have, a set of skills that when combined together create something new and intriguing inside the organization that they had themselves not ever considered. So good on you. Keep working to improve yourself and your presentation and your communication skills. There's really two skills I think all of us could be better at. One is the communication skills, right? Being able to listen and understand and communicate effectively. And the other is learning. Learning is a skill. And in order to get better at learning, we need to be a little more agile, perhaps, a little more workable. How can you learn things faster and better? Good. Companies do think, let's see what Tracy's here once more. Thank you, Tracy, for providing us content to share. And again, if you're just joining, thank you for coming. I'd like you to see you share, some perspectives in the chat. I'll put those up on the screen, or if you have a question about career, please put that in there as well. Companies do need to think about what their potential employees need. It's a great opportunity when companies find the right culture fit candidates and then invest in the building the skill set to meet the company industry needs. Yeah, when it's proactive. Often what I'm seeing is that companies want to bring on somebody, and therefore they offer them what they think that person wants, kind of in a reactive way. And often that may not work because it's not a norm or a value inside the company. And yet you got that. So what that can do is create tension, perhaps animosity, maybe, but maybe that could have a positive impact. So we never know. I mean, companies, need to be, a little more open-minded on what this looks like. Yes. Hello, Teresa. Good to see you as well. Teresa, a good advocate of Career Happy Hour. Good to see you. If you want, go ahead and share in the comments any questions, your LinkedIn profile, or you can join live through the live coaching link in the description, regardless of which platform you might be joining from. So let's jump right into the news. Here we go. Let me get rid of that. There we go. Excellent. So let me make this, hopefully that's big enough for y'all to see. 150%. Do we think that works? How about full screen? Is that a little bit better? There we go. Something fishy. Job search red flags. Boy, this is just what we were talking about, wasn't it? Let's see. Job searches can be stressful at time. While some who have been out of work for a while might jump at any opportunity, be on the lookout for what some of our members describes as job search red flags. Do you have any to add to the list? Please share in the comments below. So let's see here. What is your top career red flag? A high turnover rate, lack of salary transparency, we're a family, other. Well, that's interesting. I think the big thing for me is communication, open communication. So I'll put that in there, open communication. Open and consistent. How about open and frequent communication during the hiring process, or lack thereof. Yeah. So I'll put that in there. I'll add my 2 cents to the conversation. So, here's the thing. The only way to know truthfully that there's red flags for an organization is for you to identify your values. And if you haven't taken the time to identify your values, whatever those might be, whether that's, equal employment opportunity and how would you define that, or growth, or the capacity to learn, right? There's a lot of things that you're desiring from an employer. And to think that this, we don't like to paint with broad strokes. What we like to do is identify for you, and I do this with a lot of my candidates, what's most important. What's most important? Is it just the compensation, or is it something else? Compensation is important, there's no doubt. When you get to the negotiation table, what would you end up negotiating for? And what would you consider, if I get it, great. If I don't, that's okay too. So there's the negotiables and the non-negotiables. And how much fortitude, how would you say, discipline do you have to stand on those values and say no when those needs aren't met, and to say yes when they are? So this is something to consider, isn't it? Is that each one of us has a set of values or things that we're interested in. And let's see, is this an article? I want to see what this is here. Let's get over here to the article. Oh, it's just this. Yeah, it's just the same one. Okay. Top 10 red flags. I mean, I don't know if there's any consistent red flags, but there's no written rule that says you can't ask questions. For example, why is this position open? Wouldn't it be good to know why a particular position is even available? Oh, we've had extreme growth. We're adding another person, right? And so, okay, so now I know why that is open. Oh, well, this is, you're backfilling a vacated position. Okay, so I'm backfilling a vacated position. Why has it been vacated? What was the reason for its vacation, if you will, in that capacity? So that's, something to think through, all the things you would ask in terms of diagnosing whether or not this is a healthy environment for you. And no one can do that work except for you. You can certainly work with a coach like me to find out what are the things that you would ask, or what are the things that are on that list for sure. That's something that I would certainly advocate checking out. All right, let's go to the next one here. Eases travel rules. Paid time off, use it or lose it. I mean, so, I don't know that this is anything new. The summer travel boom may be making its way to the fall as workers take a pain or risk losing it. A recent Airbnb survey of workers found that nearly 50% could miss out on using their PTO come December. Yeah, so some organizations I think are going with more of a flex PTO or flex time off, so that some companies with you get so many hours per out, so many hours of vacation per hours worked or time worked per pay period. So you accumulate time off in that capacity. Other organizations have flexible PTO arrangements where it's like, hey, you're not going to get any bank of vacation. All you have to do is talk to me as your leader and tell me that you want time off, and you can have as much time off as you want. Certainly within reason. If you're taking 6 months off every year and not completing your tasks, you're likely not going to stay at that organization. So there's a balance there. I think that does more good for the organization than it does for the employee, but that's a separate discussion. I think the challenge we've had during the pandemic is, yeah, people could take time off, but where are they going to go? You can't go anywhere, or you couldn't at the time go anywhere. You could try. And that's when I think we saw a lot of people, maybe instead of traveling or flying or even maybe driving somewhere, they went and got an RV or rented an RV, and they did a staycation or a road trip to some place. So let's see, largely kept home after the last 19 months. Yeah, I mean, so the other side of this coin is, what do we do as leaders to encourage people to take time off, even though they may not want to? So, we as leaders probably need to, not to be redundant or meta, we need to lead the way in this capacity. We need to be taking time off. We need to be thinking about self-care. We need to be demonstrating, emulating these behaviors to our people. So that's something to consider as you go through this process. Okay. What else do we have? So this issue, this idea, this concept is not new, and it isn't because of the pandemic. It's because, people, I think, are so invested in their work that they don't have segregation of self-care, right? So that self-care is becoming a more prominent conversation now with organizations, and I think it's a good thing. Help wanted 420 cool. Let's see what this is all about. Oh, hey, I didn't expect that to come up. Employers are continuing to relax rules about drug use as more states legalize recreational marijuana and hiring becomes more difficult. Amazon announced earlier this year it would no longer test for marijuana before hiring people for unregulated positions. For example, some states also stepping in to protect workers who use legalized pot. New York is one state that recently overhauled its marijuana laws. The moves by employers and states are seen as especially good news for communities that have been disproportionately affected by drug testing. Yeah, so I think there is a case for drug testing where you're maybe operating heavy machinery or people's lives are at stake, like first responders, right? And that sort of thing. Not that these things shouldn't have a place, but I know for a fact that if there is an accident and there is how would you say it, a risk event, that you will be drug tested. And if you don't have a clean bill of health there, you're probably going to be terminated. So, it just happens, right? It happens. So you take, you use your marijuana, you drive your FedEx truck into a lake or take out a bunch of school children at a bus stop, and all of a sudden you're drug tested and you come up with high levels of THC. It's not going to be good for you. So I would say use your best judgment. Many companies that I'm aware of are still doing pre-employment screens, but once you're employed, it becomes a more of a moot point. So, I don't know how I feel about this. So I would say mixed bag. So, this is again where having your negotiables and non-negotiables and understanding your role in the organization and your capability to impact. If you're in a position where you're looking for work, you might at least temporarily abstain from utilizing these types of things so that you don't come into a situation where you could be excluded from an exceptionally good position because of some of the things that you're doing. Good. So here's a question from Tracy. Maybe that's a good interview question. Did you take all of your time off last year or over the course of your career? Yeah. So, I mean, part of this is, yeah, that's something I would certainly ask a leader, especially if, that would be like an indicator, right? It would just be one indicator of whether or not they live up to the values that you have. And if I'm given 3 weeks vacation every year and I never take but a week, couple long weekends, then you're not even using all the things that are available to you when the company does that for your own benefit, for your own sanity, for your own psychological, mental wellness, your own mental health. And so I find personally, I'm that way. I don't feel like I need to take time off, but I can take time off. And when I do, what I find is it's really hard to decompress. And often it takes me several days to decompress and be disconnected from what was, your day-to-day activity and actually enjoy where I was. So that's, I think, certainly why many vacations or many, time off periods are 2 weeks, because you're spending probably the first 2, 3, 4 days just adjusting. So in terms of interview questions, though, I'm sure there's several that we can think of that might be better than that one. And certainly, during this time, if we're talking about mental health, you might have a series of mental health questions, and that's kind of a tough area because some of that might be protected by confidentiality. But I'm sure there'd be some good ones that we could come up with if you guys want to put your contributions in the comments. Is what question would you ask an interviewer to discern whether or not the company actually values mental health over and above just saying so? Over and above just saying so. So, I do the same thing with work-life balance, right? Is that so, maybe in this case, where did during the pandemic, it's been difficult to travel and taking time off and so forth, tell me about your last great vacation. Tell me about your last great vacation. Now, I don't know if that's something that may be appropriate for an interview in the early stages, but it certainly is something that I would, during the course of an interview process, use something similar to that. What great vacation did you take this last year? What great trip did you go on this last year? What great time off activity did you participate in? So I just find it hard to ask the yes, no question. So if I say, did you take all of your time off last year? Now I'm cornering somebody and I might make them right or wrong based on their answer. And so I probably leave some space there for them to kind of say yay or nay, or, maybe they're the type of person that doesn't like taking 2 weeks off. If they get 2 weeks, they like taking every Friday off for, say, the fourth quarter. And so they'll take, whatever that is, four Fridays a month times 3 months, that's 12 days. Maybe they just don't like working Fridays. Maybe they're the type that likes to bookend the 3-day weekend. So they take, 4 days Memorial Day and 4 days Labor Day. And they have a week off and 2 weeks that way. Maybe that's what they do. So maybe it's how did you invest your time off in the last year? I know many companies invest in mental health and time off. What are some unique ways that you invested your time during your time, your time away from the office in the last year? So we're thinking about, they can share their examples. If they have any, we don't want to make them feel bad or cornered. So we need to be real sensitive to that. Let's see here. Another contribution by Tracy. Thank you, Tracy. I should just have you do these sessions. Anyway, agreed. I have heard it said, you are not a human doing, you're a human being. Yeah. Yes, of course. Human being. So, I mean, that's a good point, as many of us are not considered assets. We're considered labor. And I think there's a difference there. Very few companies list their employees, their people, as assets on their balance sheet. And I think they should. That's something I even learned way back in business school when I was attending university. It's been several years. But the concept there was, in terms of organizational development, how are we going to value those people, those human beings, rather than labor tools? Like we're just looking at them as tools for profit. Not that that's bad. It's just not very inspiring. Certainly isn't something that would support a productive talent brand for sure, nor a good employee experience. So there's something to consider. Let's see what else we got here. Hats off to the boss. Are they talking about the singer? I don't even remember his name. Anyway, I'm sure it'll come up in the chat. Who is the boss? His name is on the tip of my tongue. Okay, so this Saturday marks National Boss Day. Wait a minute. Saturday is National Boss Day? How is that possible? Is that just a way for our bosses to get us to work on the weekends? Just kidding. Let's see. And LinkedIn members are sharing stories of their best bosses, mentors, and other leaders who helped shape their career or gave that one piece of crucial advice. Share your gratitude for the leaders in your life by commenting below or tagging your post #National Boss Day. So I think that's interesting. This is my personal opinion. I don't think I ever want to, the people that I work for that were managers or bosses, I think we're really good at telling people what to do and giving negative feedback, what you did wrong. And that means that people that I worked for were actually leaders. I felt like they were colleagues or how would you say it? That we were on equal standing, equal footing. And so, I guess I'm really just approach avoidant to this concept of a boss. So even though I have, in some of my years in the marketplace in work, had a lot of bosses, there's certain components that have happened there where the people that typically had the biggest impact on me were not my boss or my manager, but the people around me. And so I wonder if there's a contributor's day, right? Somebody who contributed to your success. And maybe that's, gratitude day. Maybe you just demonstrate gratitude on this day. But with the interest, I guess, or the pursuit of having every day of the year be some day to celebrate something, okay, hats off to the boss. Missing millions of workers. Well, that's interesting. Labor force participation has languished at levels not seen since the 70s as women, low-wage workers, and those without college degrees stay on the sidelines. Though a reopening economy offers higher wages, childcare wages have risen 10%. Childcare wages. Okay, so what they're saying is the cost of childcare has increased as well. But the number of workers has dwindled by more than that amount as some hold out for more or new careers. This in turn is keeping mothers on the sidelines. That's okay. Some of this might be a response to values. They may not be there because of the market. They may be there because they feel drawn to being a mother. I don't know that that's a bad thing. Almost half of especially from their perspective, almost half of the 52 economists polled by the Wall Street Journal think the participation rate may not rebound to pre-pandemic levels from 61.6% now. Well, that's interesting. I don't know. Of course, it's a Wall Street Journal article. I won't be able to read it because I don't have a Wall Street Journal account. Every pandemic in history has created labor crunches. Yeah, 4.3 million though. That certainly could change. I guess we'll see. And certainly economists are just people looking at the numbers. My intuition tells me that people are just looking for a different work experience. And that could be them starting a business. It could be because of the pandemic, they were laid off and they just don't want to work for a corporate entity anymore. So there's motivation there. It could be that, their kids are still under the age of, under school age and they want to stay home with their kids. That could be both mothers and fathers. People are just looking for a different experience. And if your organization can be agile and flexible in creating those work experiences, it may not be full-time W-2 wage earning work. It might just be, 6-week projects 4 times a year. I mean, it might not be the type of arrangement that you prefer as a organization. Let's see. Thank you, Tracy. Yeah, Leadership Day. I'm sure that exists. We'll just have to do a Google search and find out when it is. Excellent leaders should be recognized. The truly great ones usually have a full-time job as a contributor and a full-time job as a leader. Yes. They're not only leaders, they're doers. So, those people are unique, because I think I've run into people that were exceptional leaders. Yeah, they were doers, but really the reason they were good is because they supported other people doing work. And they did a great job at that. So that was the way they did through contribution to other people. So I'm sure you could do a Google search, Tracy, and find out when Leadership Day is. So I think this is something that's going to work itself out as the pandemic works out. Age, nothing but a number, ? Let's see what it says. With their unemployment rate at 3.6%, workers over the age of 55 have the lowest jobless rate of all groups tracked by the Bureau. So finally, some positive news for those of us in the age category that might be considered quote unquote old. However, when older workers do become unemployed, they appear to face the most difficulty in finding another job. I don't know that that's true. I know what's true is many people feel that's the reason they're not getting hired, and that may not be true. Although somebody told me the other day they were given kudos that they were still in the game. Oh man, that's great. You're still in the game. I heard that said. I thought that was just so funny. Anyway, but that was something they said that was nice. I thought that was good. Unemployed workers between 55 and 64 spend an average of 40.1 weeks without a job. Here's the thing. We don't need to do it based on age. I think what we need to identify is highest and best use of your time. The methods of search are a direct correlator, not age. Unemployed workers over 65, 40.8 weeks without a job. Okay, so some of us come to these crossroads, and it used to be, people approached you for work, and so you finding work was not something you had to do. It's just something, hey, I did a good job and they gave me promotions and I always had work. Now that I'm out of work, I don't know how to find work, because I was never taught how to effectively do that. But the truth of the matter is, the number one way to find work today is the networking, and LinkedIn is well positioned to help you do that. And what many people are opposed to is social media, especially in these age categories. It's probably also correlated to use of social media. Now, I'm not suspecting that social media is networking. It's a communication tool to facilitate the establishment of a networking conversation. In fact, you can go to my podcast, jobseekersradio.com, and get the anatomy of a networking conversation. I think it's an exceptionally good tool at kind of outlining what a network conversation should look like for those who know they should network, but really just don't know how. So go there and download that resource. National Leadership Day is September 4th. Are you saying we missed it? Oh no, Teresa, we missed it. It's too bad. I'm going to have to mark my calendar, and I'll give you full credit, Teresa. There we go. No other age group of jobless workers spends an average of 33 weeks unemployed, except those between 45 and 54. Well, that's interesting. So these 45 and over, 33 weeks or more, generally speaking. Now, I can tell you, just from some of the research I've seen, that those people that talk to somewhere around the neighborhood of 3 hiring managers a week are out of work for 11 weeks. So I don't know that it's the age. I think it's the methods that are directly related to that. So often we think, oh, I'm being discriminated because of my age. And part of the reason this unemployment rates can be misleading is because people over the age of 55, many of those may be in a capacity called retired, and they're not participating in the labor rate. And so therefore the unemployment rate is low because guess what? The participation rate is also low. because people are not actively in the market. And, I'm always suspect of these unemployment rates anyways and how they're calculated. So just take some of these statistics with a grain of salt. Let's see, member commentary on how age impacts candidacy. Good. And sometimes people, and I don't deny that sometimes it feels personal. When you go through a hiring process and you think you performed well and you get to a point where an offer might be coming and you hear nothing, I don't think that's because of your age. I think certainly there is dysfunction in many companies' hiring processes. And even if there isn't dysfunction, they do make mistakes. They are people after all. And them getting back to you could be because of something other than you. It could be a lot of different things. So good. I don't know that I want to share any of the other news here, so I will certainly entertain any questions that you have. Thank you, Teresa. Appreciate that. Good to see some collaboration in the comments. I do appreciate everyone that's come today. If you have any additional questions, please put those in the comments box. And we are heading in, again, just a quick reminder, we are heading into the fourth quarter for a lot of organizations. This is time where planning is done in establishing budgets for 2022. If you're on that kind of cadence or rhythm for your fiscal year, if your fiscal year doesn't end, December 31st, then, certainly look at the organizations you're targeting and see which ones are doing something December 31st, because those leaders that we just talked about are a little more proactive in developing their strategies and plans for the next year. And that means that some of the strategies and plans that they have could include adding headcount just like you. So this is a good time to influence, even though there may not be an opportunity for you in the fourth quarter. There might be a really good opportunity for you in the first quarter. So a good networking and interacting and influencing and getting into the game in the fourth quarter when many people are not. Let's be honest. Many people are focused on the holidays and relaxing and kind of cruising into January. They're not doing the networking. They're just hanging out with family. So not that I'm suggesting you shouldn't do both, but very often people ignore the success factors and just lean into the holidays and not engage. So even the people I coach are like, hey, I've been working for so long, I just need time off. Yeah, I don't deny that. Take the time off, but don't disengage from meeting with people. It's a skill. It's like working a muscle. It's not much different than going to the gym, right? You're not going to see results after one visit. And if you stop going to the gym, what's going to happen to your body? It's not much different. So keep engaged, do your networking. Use some of the resources we have for you. The networking anatomy of a networking conversation that you can get at jobseekersradio.com is a good one. And there's a companion audio with that. So we did a 4-part series on the podcast about this concept. And so there's an ebook that comes along with that. So take advantage of that. And then on my website, I think andrewbeach.com, there is a networking checklist you can get off the website. So that's there for your benefit. And it's not just for people that are looking for work. It's a professional tool. And the better you can get at networking, the more success you will experience. All right, folks, have a great weekend. We'll see you next Friday on Career Happy Hour. Take care, stay safe, and I'm sure you will find success when you apply yourself in the networking space. Take care now. Bye.